Hello, everyone. I am back from my hiatus. It's good to see you guys here. And I'm pumped because I have Joe Sonntag on tonight. And I was like, I got to get to this interview right away. Like, not even do an intro. Usually I do like an elaborate intro, but I just want to get to talking. So let me tweet this out. And where should we begin? All right, let's start with the basics.
Okay. Basics.
When did you fall in love with comics? What made you?
You want the long version or the short version?
Whatever you would like to share. I prefer the longer versions.
Okay. All right. We can do the longer version. Probably going back to 8, 9 years old, something like that. My mom used to take us to the library back when libraries were a thing, right? And maybe they still are a thing. I don't know. With the internet, maybe the libraries are dead. I have no idea. But when I was a kid, we used to go to a thing called the library, which had a bunch of books that you could rent. And there was always like this section within the library that was, it was more like a bin, and it had like a bunch of old beat up comic books, covers ripped off and been looked through like 1,000 times. But that's where I always gravitated to, and I would pick up books like they'd have Spider-Man in there, it's like Batman or Superman, like the main kind of like popular characters at the time. And I would just jump in, I just read those because those were so cool compared to all the books that didn't have pictures in them. And I was just like, there's no contest here. So I got into comics through that way. I want to say my mom might have even bought a couple of comics from the library specifically because those might have been like the first time. Yeah, I don't know, if I'm remembering correctly. Again, it was a long time ago, but
my library never did that.
No,
like no, that is cool as hell. Like
I think that's it. Don't take my word directly on it, but like I feel like I went home with some comic books one day. So those were the comic books I had. And I didn't really know that the entire like comic book world existed at that point, more than just what I was reading. And granted, I wasn't reading them; I was just looking at the pictures, because I was just really drawn into that. So I ended up meeting another kid about my age who was a year older than me, same name as me. I thought that was really cool. So he was a Joe too, and he had a huge comic book collection, and he could also draw really good for his age. He's probably like 9 or 10. If I was 8 or 9. And I just, he showed me the comic book collection, introduced me to all these characters like X-Men and just everything. I was really intrigued with how he could draw, and so he kind of taught me how to draw a little bit. Nothing major, just, kind of show me what a 9-year-old can show an 8-year-old, as far as how to draw. So I really got into drawing from that point on, and I really fell in love with it. I fell in love with the comic book world. Especially looking at his collection, because he had like things I'd never heard of. He introduced me to guys like Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld. So this guy was the guy that introduced me to pretty much everything that I would get into later on, even like a year later, because he ended up actually getting out of comic books not too long after that. Stopped drawing, just went in a different direction in life for what he wanted to do. I guess maybe he outgrew it or something. And I was just firmly in love with it. So I stuck with it. And from that point on, I tried to get out to the comic book store when I got a chance, or at least have my mom drive me out there and just, collect what I could collect. But the main thing I would do is I'd sit down and I'd just draw for hours on whatever I had in front of me. And I would draw. I would basically look at a picture and I'd draw it. So if there was a cool pose that Spider-Man was doing, about like McFarlane or something, I just sit there with my comic book open and have my piece of paper, and I try to draw that, and I do it again and again, and I'd show my mom, and I'll give good praise and all that kind of stuff. But I continue to do that again and again, different poses, different characters, and eventually that kind of gave me some confidence and the ability to start drawing my own stuff. And then that from that point on, the rest of my kind of teenage life, I was just sitting and drawing, sitting and collecting comic books. I mean, that was with the love of it started. And then, the X-Men cartoon dropped in the 92 or whatever that was. The same thing with the Batman animated series dropped. And it was just all these things happening in a short period of time early on in my life that just exploded into a point of just like my passion and love was just all over the place. And I was just a straight up nerd. Comic books, art, that's what I wanted to be. It's funny. I was actually pretty athletic as a kid. I could run fast, I could jump, I enjoyed playing football. There was all that kind of aspect, but I'd much rather be sitting in my room either on the floor reading comic books or sitting at my drawing table, which my dad, by the way, built me a drawing table when I was a kid.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was really, he was a carpenter by trade.
So
So
your
he,
parents really supported you pretty
oh
much.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely, they did. My mom specifically, because my dad was he worked full time. My mom stayed home with the kids and raised us. So she was the main support. Nurturing the art, encouraging me. Trying to get me into uh, sometimes trying to get me into different styles of art, because when you see your kid drawing, it's like, hey, do you like this, do you like this, and I kind of just gravitated towards the comics. Like, I was like, I could try drawing other things, but I didn't want to draw a tree. I wanted to draw Spider-Man. I didn't
Yeah.
want to draw a dog. I wanted to draw Batman. So but yeah, they're really encouraging. And like I said, my dad built me a drawing table because I think I'd seen one of my favorite artists drawing a picture of them drawing at a drawing table in like Wizard magazine or something. And I
Okay.
wanted, I was like, I need to have this. Like, I don't even know what this is, but I need to have it. And so my parents couldn't afford it at the time, but what my dad could do is build it. And he was very good at building things. So my first drawing table was made out of wood and built by my father. And I drew on that for, oh man, probably until I was like 17, 16, 17, until I actually had a job and bought my own table at that point later on in life. But yeah, it was great. I lots of memories
You
just sitting in
mentioned
my room drawing.
something. Sorry.
Oh, you're
I'm
fine.
sorry. I'm like, I haven't done this in a few months, and I'm so excited that you're here. And you mentioned something that my ears are like, huh. So I don't want to get really, I'm going to get a little bit ahead of myself. I'm going to talk more about this later,
Oh,
but obviously
yeah.
we have this ash can here you put out, or like the action panels in it. You said you were athletic
Mm.
as a child. Do you think any of your athletic ability is part of the reason that you can draw action scenes so well? The body
Uh,
proportions, the movement. I mean, I'm just wondering if there is some kind of connection there, because there's muscle memory that's involved.
right. I mean, maybe, but probably it's probably more or less the what I've seen throughout action scenes and comics over the years. So I have a kind of an idea of how I want to pose characters in certain positions, if they're going to be punching or lunging or jumping or something like that. Um, when I was a kid, athletically, it was mostly like football, running around or sprinting and things like that, sprinting and jumping. I never really, I mean, I did take karate for like, a year. I think I got like to yellow belt with a purple stripe, but that's about it. So, no, like most of the stuff I got was from just what I read in comic books, or maybe what I've seen in the movies or cartoons or anything like that. Just kind of influenced how to pose characters for the most part.
So who would you say? I know one of your favorite artists is Mark Silvestri,
Hmm.
because I've watched your show a couple times, which is phenomenal. I would say
Thank you.
that you are very educated in art itself and about these
Appreciate it.
artists and their work. And I love your show because you talk about all of these different perspectives that you see within the artwork, and you give so much information. And I'm all about that. I love it. So I know Mark Silvestri is one. Who would you say your top 5 influences artistically
Mm.
are?
Well, definitely Silvestri. Stephen Platt was a big influence
Oh,
on me in the early 2000s. Um, when I got into his work, it really pushed me into a direction of detail, because at
okay.
that point I drew a lot cleaner before that and not as much detail. But when I got into Stephen Platt's work, it really kind of pushed me into all the different little line works and textures that you could do. Um, so that was definitely a big influence at the time. David Finch was another big influence on
Oh,
me in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, specifically when he was doing his Moon Knight run.
oh yeah.
I really,
Gorgeous.
yeah, I really got into him at that point because he was just producing some amazing art. And I mean, going back, my very first influence was probably Todd McFarlane. Because again, I was a big Spider-Man fan, and I just came across his art because of Spider-Man. And
Mhm.
there was something some of the way that he drew Spider-Man that was uh, very intoxicating to look at. Like, he just drew Spider-Man in a different way. It was kind of creepy at the same time. And just put him in these weird positions and darker costumes. Like darker settings. It was a little bit more gritty. Uh, so I really got into his work as far as that goes. But when I got into Jim Lee,
Oh,
Jim Lee early on was the biggest influence on me artistically of any artist at the time. Like I wanted to be a Jim Lee clone when I first got into Jim Lee's art. You're talking about late X-Men run, early Wildcats.
Wildcats. Oh, yes,
Yeah,
Wildcats. So good.
I was absolutely in love with anything Jim Lee, and I studied his art more than anybody's art early on in my life. I wanted to draw like Jim Lee. I wanted to be Jim Lee. Uh, I read everything about Jim Lee. Like that's what I wanted to be. And then guys like Rob Liefeld too was a big influence on me in the 90s. I loved his action. He's a very dynamic artist, especially a lot of the stuff he did with Extreme Studios early on with Youngblood and Bad Rock and characters like that. There was just some really fun aspects about his art that drew me in as a young kid, and I got heavily into Rob Liefeld for a little while. And after that, the biggest name that I just it was the name above all names for the longest time right after Liefeld was Dale Keown.
Oh,
When
yes.
I discovered Pitt, I discovered Dale Keown, life changed. Rendering changed. Things changed about what I was looking at artistically, what I wanted to do style wise. After that, I started developing my style a little bit more towards like what Dale was doing at the time with Pitt. It completely changed the way I looked at comic books. And so, I mean, throughout the years, I've taken a lot of different artists' influences. So top three, definitely Silvestri right now, and has been for a long time. I would say probably Finch and probably Brett Booth. If I had to break it down right
Brett
now,
Booth.
of the three guys that I mainly get influenced, Silvestri, Finch, and Booth right now. But throughout the history of me drawing, I've studied artist after artist after artist throughout my life, and it's just I would fall in love with the artist for doing various things. Like I love the way that Michael Turner drew women, so I really gravitated to that and how he drew faces. I loved, I fell in love with how Mark just drew everything, Mark Silvestri. So every time I fall in love with another artist, I just take a piece from what they did, what I liked best that they did, and put it into my own style. And eventually I started developing my own personal style from that. And, you can see the influences in my work, but it was still uniquely me. And I think I got that because I studied so many different artists over the years. It wasn't just like, I want to be Jim Lee or I want to be this person. It's like, I want to be this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. Oh, this guy's cool. I want to be this guy too,
You know what? How would you describe your own style? I mean, this Reaper Destroyer, this little ash can here, and I backed the book right away. I got right in your DMs. I was like, all right,
Yeah.
what's the deal with this book here? I'm like, this is, I said some of the things like, your style reminds me of this and maybe with that, like who your influences. I think I ran down some of this with you and I was saying, like I can see this inspiration, but your style, it's uniquely yours. Like you were just saying, how would you describe your own style though?
I mean, I
Oh,
don't know.
yeah.
That's a hard
Yeah,
question. Uh, I mean, I try to go for the exaggerated realism
okay.
in, some people call it. I guess it depends on how you look at it, because there are art styles I look at that, to me, I say that this is a realistic art style. That doesn't mean it's real life art style. It's just realistic in proportions and how people are drawn. And another person could look at that and say it's a cartoony style.
Because
So
art
it
is subjective.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So I guess but I would say, a realistic, exaggerated style is what I try to go for. Fairly realistic proportions, although within comic book art, you can exaggerate, which is why that comes in. Dynamically, you can make appendages longer, or they can bend in a little bit of a weird way, but you're keeping the energy of the art there. So if you look at it, it looks correct,
Mhm.
but there's no way that a human being could actually pose in that manner. Like, so if you look at the cover to the Reaper Destroyer ash can, just at face value, it looks like a realistic kind of pose.
Yeah,
But
it does.
if you were to take that in real life and put like an actor in that pose,
I wish my camera was better. I'm sorry.
no,
This does no
it comes out.
justice for how beautiful this is. I am
Thank you.
so sorry. The chrome does not work well.
Yeah, it
and
doesn't show up good on camera.
it doesn't, not on my camera. I don't have a camera. I'm using my laptop camera here.
Hey, it
And then
works.
I
That
got
works.
a little ring light that I don't know how to work because I'm the world's worst woman. Spencer
Ah.
would tell you. But this is just truly gorgeous.
Thank you.
So yeah, so back to what you were saying about your style before I cut you off so rudely.
So if you took a real person, even if it's a bodybuilder, and put them in that kind of pose, or a heroic pose in a costume or whatever, it's still not going to look as cool and dynamic as you can draw it, because you can push the boundaries of reality when it comes to the human body in a ways where it meets that cool factor. And that's just one of the biggest things I say about my art and art that I enjoy. As long as it looks cool, I don't care if a proportion is off here or there, because that's not my point. Is not to draw real life. If I wanted to do that, I would do that, and it would be boring to me because I don't want to see a real life superhero. I mean, they work on the movies, because they
Yeah.
can they just work in the movies. But if I'm reading a comic book, I don't want to see the correct proportion for Cyclops, because the dude just looks like a wimp. But you look at the proportions that you get from Jim Lee or Willis Portacio or any of those guys back in the 90s, the dude looks like a superhero.
Yeah.
There's a big difference of the way that you can draw realistically and the way you can draw realistically exaggerated. So I guess, long story short, I guess that's how you would describe my style, if that makes any sense to anybody out there.
I think it does make sense. I think it's important that you share that too, because I think every artist should know what their style is. It's your signature, it's your style, you know.
Yeah.
If so you Reaper Destroyer, right? You had a preview book in 2007 you put
Mm.
out. You never finished it. So that's how long this journey has been going on for, or was it before then? Let's get into it. So
Yeah, so the preview book that I did one preview book with two different covers. I took there here. This is a sketch cover I took to Wizard World 2007 that I did.
Spencer, get a close up.
There you go. If you were there, yeah. So this is this is the sketch. This was the special sketch cover I took that
That is
I didn't know
gorgeous.
what the hell I was doing. But yeah, this is like one of the first times I was drawing the character. Looks very similar, but also different. I kind of redesigned him a little bit for current day and everything. Got my old signature here. Wait, where am I at?
Right there.
Old signature there. Yeah, which I actually kind of like. That was cool.
Yeah, that is cool. The lettering changed, it
Yeah.
looks like,
Yeah.
yeah. I think
That
the
was back when
lettering changed for the better.
Yeah, like when I started going by JMS or Joe Sonntag, and honestly, the reason why I started doing that is at the time I was still in the band. I was still doing music, so I kind of wanted to separate who people knew Joe Sonntag as in the band and the guy that's going to be drawing. I just kind of want to separate that first, and I just threw the M in there because why not? Create a new Facebook account and all that kind of stuff. So I ended up redesigning my signature and just went with the JMS because it was kind of hard to draw Joseph Michael Sonntag or whatever. It didn't look good. So, anyways, where was I? I got sidetracked there.
No. I was just asking about this
book.
preview book. So in 2007, you put it out. You never finished it. I want to know more about this. I remember one of my only complaint about this ash can. What was my only complaint? I need more of this. I could read 30, 50 pages of this. I'm like, and you're like, well, and I'm like, where is it? Can I get a copy? Not many exist anymore. I'm like, well, shit.
Yeah. Well,
so I need to know about this now.
the original preview book, I think I printed out like 50 and sold most of them. I've got two that I kept for myself, obviously, that I was never going to part with. I think Sean's got one or two, I think, and then the rest are just floating around out there somewhere. So they're very, very, very limited to anybody, if anyone even still has them that got them. But yeah, like in 2005, I went through two different periods of my time where I spent time doing music and then came back to art. The first time I was, teenage years, I was hitting it hard, drawing, trying to get into the industry. And then I got into music, which was my second love, and got into a band and started playing music, got out of drawing and did that for a few years. And then that kind of fell apart and I came back to drawing. And when I came back to drawing, I was still in my early 20s. And I was like, all right, this is the time to try to really break into the industry. And so I did. I put my portfolio together. I sent it out. I got a lot of rejection letters, all that good stuff that artists go through. And so one day I was just sitting down at my table and I was I was like, well, I guess I could create my own character, so I just started sketching, and I ended up that day just coming up with a character that I really liked. I liked the look of him. I had no idea what I was going to do with him, no idea what the name was going to be, and that ended up being Reaper Destroyer. So I just kind of formed a story around this drawing that I did just randomly one day, and just created the story, created the character, all that just based on that. Didn't really know what I was doing back then. It was I was fairly new to just making a comic book in general. I was still learning how to draw. Uh, so I kind of loosely just put stories together that it wasn't very deep. The characters weren't deep. The actual storyline wasn't deep, But I decided to put a book together anyway because I thought that might be the best chance I had at the time of breaking into the industry. And also by doing that, I could build up my portfolio so I could take more stuff to conventions and say, hey, here's sequential work. Because at the time, I didn't know where you could get scripts to work or to draw other people's comics to actually put together a portfolio for editors to look at. And so I was like, I'll just create my own book and I'll take a portfolio and blah, blah, blah. So I ended up meeting a couple guys through MySpace back when MySpace was the thing. And, and I actually kind of really liked MySpace. So it was cool. But what was cool about MySpace is there were really cool groups that you could get a part of. And there were a lot of art groups, a lot of comic book groups. And I ended up getting into a group that I met a guy named Bruce Walker, who was an inker, and he really liked my stuff. And I hired him to ink the book. When I say hired, I asked him to do the book because there was no money being exchanged back in the day. It was just like, hey, let's get together and do this. So
if we make money, we make money, pretty much.
Well, that was kind of the thing.
This,
it's like, like, let's get together and do this. When the book gets picked up, we'll split the profits and, we'll be set for life. So I ended up working with a guy that I worked with at the time writing the book with me because he was really into writing. He was like, dude, I've always wanted to write a comic book. I was like, well, jump on. Let's jam together. Let's have some fun. So we put out this book with a very loose story, but still it was 12 pages of a character. And, it got printed out. I hired a letterer to put letters to it. And so it was this kind of like mini 12-page comic book. I was very proud of it at the time, just at that point, I think I was 22 something years old, maybe 23 years old. And it was the closest I had gotten to drawing comic books in my entire life. A dream that I was trying to live since I was 8 years old. So that was really exciting. It was really, really cool. And took it to the conventions. People actually really dug it that bought the book. I was very surprised that anybody was even interested in buying the book. So
what was the book called?
It was called Reaper Destroyer.
It was. So you've been working on the same book this whole entire time.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. It's the same book, same book, same character.
Different. It just changed over time and evolved pretty much.
Exactly. Yeah. So right after I went to this convention and had all this like excitement and stuff, I was really determined to finish the book. I got back from the convention I sat down and started working on new pages. I had also met Shaun at this period of time.
Yeah.
And he was he was very, very big and encouraging and stuff, like, so I'd be messaging him back and all this kind of stuff. Unfortunately, at right around that time, my personal life took a turn for the worst. And I ended up going away from music or from art for a while and kind of went to drown my sorrows and rehabilitate, or so to speak. And I found myself back in the music world. Okay. And I spent 10 years doing that because it was almost instant success with music. Like the band I was in that took off, we really started to grow. We had aspirations of just like anything of doing it big. We hit the road, we toured, we did all this kind of stuff. And I didn't have time to draw. So I just took a long period of time off from working on the book. And 10 years goes by really, really, really quick. And I'm kind of at the end of my music career, wanting to go a different direction in life, start a family, get married, then start a family. And I decided, I was like, well, what about, art? Like, I haven't done that in a long time and I miss it. So I went back and started drawing again. And I got back in contact with Shaun because over that period of time, we stayed in contact, but not like we were when we first met. And he encouraged me to jump back into this book because he was like, dude, indie books right now are a big thing. Like there's this thing called crowdfunding. The indie scene is really blowing up. And he's like, I think you should really resurrect Reaper Destroyer, dust that thing off, and bring that book back. He's like, I think it would do very well. So I always have to give a lot of credit to Shaun for pushing me in this direction.
Shaun was right.
He was. And I say it all the time. Shaun is always right.
Yeah.
Shaun is always right. So big shout out to Shaun for pushing me in that direction and just getting me back into it. So what I ended up doing is I went back to the old book and picked it up and read through it. And, there was a lot of things I liked about it. And then there were a lot of things that I didn't like about it, and it was just like, well, how can I update this for modern day? Which at the time, I think when I first started looking at the book again was like right around 2018. And there was a lot of things I just kind of wanted to update. A lot of holes in the story back then. Back then it dealt heavily around alien technology and just all this stuff that I was into at that time. And that's kind of the thing with me. Like whatever I'm into at the time is kind of what I pull in to the story. And at that time I was into aliens and ancient aliens and like all this stuff, and I was just like, I want a story that deals with alien technology. And I was a big fan of the Guyver too. I was a big fan of the Guyver, and that was around like aliens and the biomechanical suit and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of what it became back then. But I'd gone through 10 years of being a writer in music and being a lyricist. And I had gotten into a bunch of different things, during that time, a lot of drinking, a lot of drugs, a lot of good times. But I got into a lot of conspiracy stuff as well, and you just dive into like this conspiracy world, which I thought was crazy fascinating.
Oh yeah, it totally is.
Yeah,
it totally is.
I got absolutely lost in conspiracies for years when I was doing music, and it was great because they helped very cool ideas for writing songs and lyrics and stuff like that. And when I was rethinking the story, I started kind of going back to the conspiracy aspect of it, and there were so many things I was like, I can take this and I can take that and I could actually put it into the story. It would make this a lot more interesting. So I kind of started doing that, and I spent about 2 years just retooling the story. And when I say 2 years, it was like I would have something and then I'd hate it, and I would have something and then I hate it and then I'd put it aside and just get frustrated. It was a very kind of stressful time of trying to get the story together. But one day it kind of clicked. Everything that I wanted to put into it just fell into place, and all of a sudden I had the story there, and once that happened, then I kind of really made the decision, like, let's go forward with this thing. Let's really put this together and try to get this book out. And, so now here we are, fast forward, a couple more years, and the book's launched and doing well, and got the ash can out there, and I'm very excited for people to read it. So it's been a crazy journey, like 16, 17 years or so, a journey of this character. Just started all back in 2005 when I was just sketching one day, bored, and lo and behold, I drew this character, and that was the start of it.
What would you say is the biggest change that you've made? Can you share that? Or is that something that, what I would love to see you do, because I'm a consumer, okay?
Yeah.
I would love to see you reprint some of that older stuff. If you have some of it, I'd like to see you put it together in some kind of book and sell it. I would buy it. There would be other people that would buy it. We would eat that up. I'm someone that I love the processes. I love to see the changes. I love to see concept art. I love to see all of that. That was one thing I loved about your ash can too, is that you had in like all these little like character sketches in the back there. I loved that. I love seeing character sketches, character design. I loved seeing the little notes on the faces that you had of Victor Reigns in particular. You had these little notes on it. I love that. And I loved that you included you also, like, for chaos too, that was like, it's right in front of my face. I don't know why I just don't open it up and look. But yeah, chaos too. You had like notes on her facial design and everything. I want to show like more of this interior. I want to read from it, because like way you ended that ash can, I was like, that was so good. And it explains too. When you said about the conspiracy theories, and you did music, like you were a lyricist at some point, that
Mhm.
explains to me the flow of how you write things. It's
Oh,
like you interwove both of those aspects of your life in some way and you put it into the story. Believe it or not, I mean, it connects for
I
me
like that.
that
I
way.
like that. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and I also loved that you had like you went into the powers, you went into like a little bit behind on the characters. You didn't give away like all of it,
Yeah,
but
which is it's hard for me which is hard too, trust me, like, when I start talking about the story, I have to really think of, like, how I talk about the book because in my mind, I'm always like, "Well, how do I tell you this story without telling you the entire story?" You know,
yeah.
like, it's hard for me as a newer creator because I just wanna dive into everything. It's like, "Well, I can't say this unless I go into this and tell you what's going on over here." You know, so I just go, like, in this rabbit hole just around and around, and I just, like, reveal everything. So, uh, when I was writing that out, it took me a while to just kind of focus on, like, a breakdown of stuff so that I could put things in the ash can so you can kinda know the world that I was creating without giving
Mm.
too much away. So that was actually more work than it might have looked like.
I mean, I love it. There is like I think I said to you before, like there's some ambiance like of mystery surrounding like who the character is, what they're about, just the time going back and forth. I'm like, I love the lost
Yeah.
kind of approach, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah, and that's
And you have like an origin going of the character. Now, nowadays we don't get many good, I grew up reading old Marvel stuff my dad had.
mhm.
Everything had an origin story.
Yeah,
You
true.
know, and I love origin stories. A lot of people don't. I love a great origin story, and I love when it's a origin story that you have to piece together, like some kind of
Right.
mystery, like, oh, what is going on here? I need to know more.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's kind of what you are doing, and I'm
Yeah,
here for it.
that's
So
exactly what I wanted to do with the book because I so I'm not a huge fan of picking up a book for the first time and having to get through, like, the first issue, and the whole issue is the origin issue of how this person or whatever came to be. Uh it's just some of it is boring to me, you know, because I want to. If you sell me on a cover, if you have a character that's got a really cool character,
mhm.
costume design or whatever, and I pick that up because that looks exciting, and then I start flipping through the book, and it's like 10 pages, 15 pages before I see that character in costume or doing anything because you're telling this long story arc for the origin. It turns me off as a reader. That's just me personally. That might not be everybody, but that's me. So I can only think about like what I would like out of a comic book. I like stuff where you can jump right in, the character's established. We can see some awesome powers and action of the character. We jump right
Mm.
into his or her story, but at the same time, we can be sprinkled in with the mystery of the origin. Like I think that's the best, at least for me, that's the thing that gets me the most in reading a book. So that's how I wanted to tell the story. We'll give you a timeline where we can show you what's going on. We can have some fun action, but we can also sprinkle in flashbacks or whatever we want to do to tell you more about how this person came to be where they are right now, and then bring it all together by the end of the story arc. And there you have, like a nice package of a story being told, and then still allow you to go forward with a character now that everything is established and we can just move forward, or at least, there's gonna be twists and turns in the book. Without me going into spoilers, there's gonna be twists and turns. It's not gonna be just a straightforward story. There's things I want to do to make you guess, or do something where like, wow, I didn't see that coming. So and one of the best ways you can do that is to give you the character, and you learn about the character as
Mm.
the character is learning about himself as well. So anything he discovers, you're going to discover at the same time, and hopefully have the same kind of emotional impact as the character does while you're reading the book.
I think that's a great way to go about it. Um, I got to go back to what is a change with the character from when you originally made it without
Oh yeah.
ruining the story. I have to go back to it because this is something I'm sure anyone that does not know that you've been working on it for this long or to this extent, I'm
Yeah.
sure they're curious too, but we don't want to ruin this story. So I'll have
Well,
you think about it for a second.
yeah. Actually, give me a second. I'm gonna take this hoodie off. It's really warm down here, and I'll think about it, and I'll jump back on and explain.
All right. Hello to everyone in the chat. I'm sorry, guys. I've been trying to keep up with the comments. I'm trying to say hi. I see that. All right. Let me go through. Phil was in here at one point. We had Tarks9, Rick Saylor, Pedro Ang is in the house, Jaro. Let's see. Stat was in here. Indie Wrestling Aces. Let's see. Comics Mate was here. B Rose was here. Aerith was here.
Good to see you all. Sorry about that. It gets really cold down here. And so like I usually have to come down here with a hoodie, but by the time I warm up, like it gets really warm. And so I just like, sorry. So sometimes I get stuck. I'm on stream. I'm like, damn, I'm dying. I'm sweating here. So
Black Rose says simping for Sonntag.
That's right.
You know how hard it is for me to say your last name, by the way?
Sonntag?
Well, I want to be like Sonntag. Like I'm from Massachusetts, so
there you go. Yeah.
It's like I'm like, do I say Sonntag? What is it? Like I can't pronounce A's and O's. Everyone Sonntag. And no I's.
Everybody says Sonntag. Most people just say Sonntag. I'm however you want to pronounce it is fine. It's Sonntag, but it could be Sonntag.
Well, Sonntag works for me because that's like my accent. So okay, I was saying it incorrect. You know what? I try to say it correctly, and no matter what, I'm just incorrect with names.
I thought you were doing a pretty good job.
Yeah. All right. I get a golden star for the night.
That's right. So. That's right. So biggest changes with the characters. I'd say, well, there's two big changes I was saying that they deal with both main characters, which is Matthew Walker, who is the hero of the book, who's trapped inside the suit of armor, and Victor Raines, who is one of the villains of the book. With Matthew, all right, how do I do this without doing spoilers?
So all right, let me try to see if I can guide you through this.
one of the big changes is the original book. Matthew wasn't imprisoned in the suit of armor, which he is now. He's imprisoned in the suit of armor, and he doesn't know how he got there, why he got there, and he's got limited short-term memory of who he is and where he came from.
Okay.
So I changed that quite a bit about the character. In the original story, he knew who he was, and he had a motivation at the time as to why he was doing what he was doing, which I'm not going to get into too much with that because some of that might come into play.
All right, so we'll get it. So. Let's go on to the next one. I will not let you.
I appreciate that.
I'm not going to let you, maybe if you were anyone else, but I really want to know what's going to happen in this, and I don't want you to spoil it for me in a way. So
the biggest character I changed was Victor. Victor is a character I absolutely love. He is my like kingpin character of.
He's intriguing to me.
World. Yeah, just a very powerful shadow kind of guy. In the original book, he was just a rich dude that stumbled across this alien technology, and he double-crossed another mob for it, which started a mob war. But he retained this technology, and he built his empire and all this stuff based on the technology. Became very wealthy, and got into high places of power. I thought that was a cool angle, but with the conspiracy angle that I was going for, I had a different idea. So I'm a Christian, and within the religious field, or whatever you want to call it, there are conspiracies within Christianity, certain stuff in the Bible, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff, when it comes to fallen angels and Nephilim that I got really into. There's this thing that was called the gap theory, or the pre-Adamites,
all right. All right.
Go ahead. What?
I could talk about that forever. So, all right.
Oh, okay.
let me stay on task here.
So the gap theory, it basically breaking down is that there is a gap between Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, where the creation of the earth happened, and then there's this giant gap of time before you get into like the Adam story and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And during that time was a race of human beings that was created and ruled the world, and basically made all the things that we see today, the pyramids and all the structures around the world. And they had wars with angels and like all this kind of stuff. It's very, very cool. It's, for me, I get really sucked into it. Like it sparked a lot of ideas. So with Victor, I was like, if I could make him part of this race, which in the Bible they're called the sons of God. In the book, I renamed them and called them the elder sons. But I wanted to make him like this immortal. One, because I'm a huge fan of like Highlander and stuff. Like
Oh, Highland
I
is
love
great.
immortals, like because it's just you can do so much with immortal characters because they've been there for so long. So you can go back if you want to and tell about a story they did, way back in time. So I mean, there's so much stuff you can do with a character that's immortal. So I changed him to be this like very powerful immortal being that's been around since pretty much the dawn of time. I was part of this group called the Elder Sons, which I based on the Sons of God, which was this race that existed before Adam. And in
Mhm.
my story, they basically wiped themselves out through wars and technology. That they had the technology that was could reach the stars. Technology you couldn't even dream
Mm.
about today. They had back in the day. Wiped themselves out, and only remnants of them survived. And they kind of mingled themselves in with the humans, the Adam race, and it kind of posed as kings, queens, emperors, pharaohs throughout the years, working behind the scenes. They became the secret societies, the Illuminatis, the royal bloodlines, and all that kind of stuff that
Yep.
controlled human history to their benefits and kept them in power. So that was one of the
Mhm.
biggest changes I did with Victor. He went from being just a man, a rich dude, to being like this whole other thing, a part of this immortal group. So I really like that. Like that aspect of the story gets me really excited because I get to dive in to all these conspiracy theories that I absolutely love. It's fun subject matter.
It's like a Zachariah Sitchin book mixed with like some hermetic alchemy, which they
A
speak
little bit,
about
yeah.
like the gap theory and that and everything. So there's, yeah, I totally dig that. So that is amazing. I'm wondering if Spencer's back because I want to take a look at your campaign.
Mm.
Um, Spencer, are you back? Because he
Hello.
controls everything. Does anyone have any questions for Joe while we're here? Do you want to talk about your YouTube channel for a bit, if while everyone is
Uh,
coming?
yeah. So most everybody that's in the chat that I see knows me. I have a YouTube channel under Joe Sonntag that I do usually shows on Tuesdays called Appreciating Comic Book Art, where we look at comic book art and we appreciate it for what it is. Usually I have my partner from Art and Stuff on, Shaun, and we're just massive comic book geeks. We love art. We
Mm,
like looking at art and just talking about it. It's one of our favorite subjects, more than anything to do. It's
mm,
probably one of our favorite shows to do because we just get to look over our passion. I have another show called Odd and Stuff on Odd Stuff channel. We do shows on Wednesdays and Fridays, and those are a little bit more like shill shows where we'll have other creators on, talk about their books,
mm.
and just hang out and have a good time. So both channels are really fun. I would recommend, if you guys haven't, please go sub to both of them. You just get a lot of good content, a lot of good comic book content, which is what Shaun and I are here for. The pop culture stuff is fun, but we're here to talk about comic books and look at comic book art.
I'll be on. I'll be bringing some Art Adams art books
Yes.
that
Yes.
I got at cons. I have a couple. I have like this
Ooh.
monsters one I want to show off. It's one of my favorites. I have a Marvel art of Art Adams that is
Oh,
phenomenal.
nice.
I love Art Adams. Everyone that comes to this channel that knows when I talk about him, I love Art Adams something, but it's
Oh, yeah.
detail and how he draws eyes. I can't explain it. He has a certain way that he draws eyes, and I'm drawn to it.
Well, Art Adams too was a huge influence on a lot of the guys that I was
Mm,
influenced by. Like especially when he came onto the scene, I know he definitely influenced guys like Liefeld and Lee and Silvestri. With just what he would do, and he was an artist. He wasn't a full time artist. He would just kind of pop in, do these event books. Like Long Shot,
mm.
did the Long Shot miniseries, or he'd do an annual or something, and then he just kind of disappear for a while. Like he doesn't have the kind of amount of pages drawn that some of these guys do, but what he does have out there is absolutely amazing and influenced a generation of artists that came after him.
Oh, definitely. All right, let's see. Sorry, I have a message here. Oh, Spencer's back. All right, Spencer, I want to share the screen here. So let me make sure I share volume. All right. I haven't done this in a while. I've had a break for a few months. I had some health things going on, and we were trying to get all this printing stuff under control. Thank you for dropping that link, Spencer. That's why you are the best. All right, let's see. Chrome tab, Reaper Destroyer, Indiegogo. We're going to share it, share audio. All right, I am going to play this trailer just because it's an amazing trailer. I'm going to go off stream for 1 second while I do this. Let me stop my screen, and I'm going to play this trailer, and I will be right back. Oh, did I not? I stopped sharing? What happened? Spencer.
Spencer, come back.
All right, here we go. Share this. Why is it doing that? Chrome tab. There we go. Share. This is why Spencer runs all of this stuff.
Right.
Because all right. Here we go. He has it on that. I'm going to stop my cam for a second, and I'm going to hit play. All right. I am back here. So, in 1 second. Sorry.
I like your avatar. I like that.
Padrino drew it for me.
Really?
Yes. So before Padrino was like working on everything that he was, I was like, I fell in love with Padrino's artwork. And I was like, you know what, you're gonna go far, you're gonna be huge, kid. You know, I was like, I need an avatar. And he was like, I'll draw you an avatar. And I was like, you will? Can you make it me with a fireball and a Slim Jim? Like, as it
looked great. Looks great. Yeah.
So, all right, this campaign, how did you end up working with who you ended up working with on this campaign? Let's talk about it. How is your relationship with your editor? I'm big on relationships with editors. Your relationship with an editor is probably one of the most important aspects to your book.
My relationship with my editor is good. Like I'm working with Mark Polton, who's editing the book, and helping me also with the scripting and writing as well. So we're good. We work really good together. I brought him on late in the process because I had been working with another writer and editor at the time, and we ended up parting ways. So a lot of the story was kind of put together pre-hand. So he's kind of coming in just to make sure that everything's still flowing well. Because I like to work with, I like to collaborate with people that have better experience than I do in certain fields. So I'm not an editor. I'm focusing on the art and the storytelling. And there's a lot of things that need to be looked at that I don't have time to, or maybe I miss with my eyes. I'm dyslexic too, so that doesn't help. Trust me, like my editor when I'm doing posts is my wife. You know, I have to send everything to her and be like, does this look right? And you know, like if I spell something wrong because I switch a letter around, she's like, yeah, you need to fix this. So Mark is great. You know, we all know Mark Polton for Graveyard Shift and U.S. Assassins, and Black Owl and everything he does. So working with him is awesome. He'll keep me on track. I'll say that definitely. Uh,
Your
the
inkers, you,
The creative team I got
yeah,
Joe
you
Weems.
have a good creative team. I need to know, like, how did you end up working with all of these people? You have an like literally an all-star team of talent on this.
Yeah, it's not as exciting as the story might go. It's just uh, I I've always liked to work with the best I can work with. I've had an obsession since I was in music to put out the best product that I can put out.
Okay.
I want to, I semi have an ego to the point where I want to have the best looking product. Like I
Mm,
want to, quality wise, I want to have stuff that rivals that of what you would pick up at a comic book store. Um, that being said, like I still my ego is not like it's not a bad ego. It's just like I want to produce the best I can. Like I'm not satisfied unless I look at something and I'm like, wow, that looks professional. Um, so I could ink the book if I wanted to, but uh, I wanted to work with a professional inker, just like I wanted to work with somebody that was a professional writer that had better experience in that field than me. And I just approach people. Like I just, maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. I don't know, but like I'll just approach people. We have social media that, a lot of people have DMs, they're open. And if they are, I'll just send a message and, you know, uh, if they respond, they respond. If they don't, they don't. No hard feelings. I just move on. But I really wanted to work with Joe Weems. I mean, those guys,
mm,
I've been fans of those guys since I was a kid. They inked my favorite artists, including obviously Mark Silvestri. So anytime
mhm.
I would read a book that Mark was doing, you'd either see Bat or you'd see Weems next to his
Yep.
name. And that's what I really wanted. And I thought my style was kind of similar to that Top Cow style, and I thought that these guys would really enhance that style and make it what I wanted it to look like. So I messaged Weems, and to my surprise, he messaged me back within a couple hours, and we started talking. And I showed him some of my art, and just talked a little bit about the book. And he agreed to do it, and it was just like a very simple, quick process. This was early on when COVID was just kind of starting, and it was really affecting a lot of things. So it might have been good timing too that I approached him when the whole pencils down thing was happening in the industry, and maybe he was looking for work. Regardless, it worked out for me that I got to get him on the book. So that was a dream come true to work with him, and then to see what he did with my pencils was all just still to this day like living a dream when I see the work. I ended up reaching out to Bat because Joe ended up getting more work coming through. His schedule was picking up. He's getting really busy. So I thought I'd lighten the workload on him. And the only other guy I could think of that I wanted to work with at that time was Bat,
Mhm.
especially if you're talking about qualities of inks
Yeah.
in the same book. I don't want to go find another inker or ink it myself and have like a drop off because even though it's my art, there's the line weights and the stuff that a
Mm.
professional inker can bring to the pencils
Whew.
is a noticeable thing. So if you were to just change that and have a lesser inker, or if I started inking myself and there was a noticeable difference and the line weights all of a sudden became more thin instead of some of these thick stuff that Weems was doing, I didn't want to have that drop off. So Bat, I knew. I mean, those two jammed on books before, going back in the Top Cow days and whatever. And I know that they would mesh very well together. So I reached out to Bat, and fortunately, Bat and Weems are friends, and I showed Bat the stuff that Weems had already inked with me, and I showed him my art, just talked a little bit about the book, what I wanted to do with it, and he basically said if Joe was involved, he was down to do it. So it was that simple with getting Bat on board. So got him on board, and yeah, the rest is history. I get to work with two of the best inkers in the history of comics, in my opinion. I mean, these guys are legendary artists in their own right. They're good artists as well, but they just know what the hell they're doing with the ink lines, and they can take the style that I'm doing and they can enhance it, which is what a good inker is supposed to do. So that's insane that I get to work with these guys. It's still crazy to me.
A good inker is going to make your project. A bad inker is going to break your project
Absolutely.
completely. I
Absolutely.
never respected inking until I was older
Mm,
because I was like, what is that movie Kevin Smith put out? Oh, you're a
Chasing Amy.
glorified, yeah, Chasing
Chasing
Amy.
Amy, yeah.
You're a glorified tracer. Not
Yep,
until I
yep.
started like going to cons and learning more about
Yeah,
the process and watching things get inked, and then realizing like,
yeah.
oh, okay, all right, that looks, wow. This person, like, say there is an artist that is mediocre. You get an amazing inker.
Mm.
That piece, it looks like it's the greatest piece in the world.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. A great inker can make a bad, or maybe not a horrible artist, but can make a lesser artist look really well. And in fact, back in the day, inkers were the finishers. So
Mm,
what you would do is you would get a penciler, and I'm talking about go back in the day of comics. You get a penciler to come in that can tell the story well, and you get him for the storytelling, and you get him for the pencils. Back in the day, they're really a lot looser. You brought in an experienced inker at the time to bring it all together, and the finished product was really what the inker was putting down on the paper. The artist would get the credit, and then the inker would get credit for inks, but it was really the inker pulling really the heavy workload with a lot of artists. That
it
changed at some point, but inkers still, they very much carry a very, very important part of in comic books. I've always been respectful of inkers, but like you said, Kayla, I didn't really know how important inkers were until I got a little bit older. And when I really kind of broke down uh, finished pencils and finished
mhm,
inks, when I started studying the difference between the two.
yep,
Because when you're reading comic books, you're seeing the finished inks. So
inks
you're
all
seeing a lot,
together.
exactly. You're seeing a lot of the inkers work, regardless if it's Jim Lee or Mark Silvestri, you're seeing Bat or you're seeing Scott Williams or whatever. Um, so when you started breaking those down, you would look at pencils and you look at inks, you could see what the inker was adding and enhancing,
Mhm,
of the original pencils. And the original pencils were great, but you could see like the little stuff that the inker could do. Like I was saying, like line weights. Yeah, a penciler can draw line weights. Yeah, we can do that if we want to. The beauty is we don't have to if we're working with an inker, so we can draw a little bit faster. Where an inker can go through and actually hit those fun dynamic line weights that really brings your piece out more than what you did. Which is what I love. I love seeing, if you even looking at the inked cover, from the pencils to the ink cover that I have for the wraparound. I'll study everything that I get back from Weems and Bat because I want to see all the little stuff that they did. Because when I look at it, I see everything I did. I see everything that I drew is there, but you also see the enhancements that were put over the pencils as well, and it creates a very incredible looking picture of the collaboration of a good inker and a good artist that jam together, that work well together, create really awesome work. That's why Jim Lee and Scott
yeah.
Williams have worked
Oh,
together for 30 some odd years, and some guys only work with a certain inker because they have that trust there, and once I started getting into that, I was like, I want to work with an inker. To me, that is comic books. Like I respect guys that can ink themselves. I'm a better artist than I am an inker, even though I can ink my own work. I can make it black and white, no problem. I can make it look really good. But a guy like Joe Weems or Matt Bad Banning, I'm not even close to being in their class for the technique and the history that they have. They know exactly what they're going to do with the cross hatching, the rendering, all that kind of stuff when they take a look at my pencils, and the way that they jam on it is just, it's absolutely gorgeous when I get to see it.
and then you have Kyle Ritter doing colors, and, oh my
Yeah.
god, his colors are just amazing. I love, a black and white book because I like to see everything, you know? I'm
Yeah.
very particular about colors, but Kyle is just, his colors are mind-blowing. He really
Mhm.
knows how to put like colors together, and, just like he knows how to work color schemes correctly with it. Basically, like, doesn't, how can I say? Because it's not that it enhances the product so much. It enhances it. I'm trying to think of the right words.
Well, I
Hmm.
mean,
It doesn't like overpower it completely. If his style, if that makes sense.
yeah.
He just brings it more to life, I would say.
Well,
Uh,
Kyle's
um,
Kyle's crazy easy
he's
to work
just
with. I mean, if you want him to bury the art and do something artistically, he could definitely do that.
Oh, I'm sure
If
he
you want
could.
him, if you want him to take, care, nice care of the art as well, you can do that too. One of the things when I lucked out being able to get him because he doesn't do many interior books outside of like Cyberfrog and things of that nature. So I was very lucky to even be able to work with him. Much like I am with any of the guys on this project, very lucky to be in the same room with those guys. But working with Kyle was great because I could sit down with him and we would message back and forth. And I would like, look, I've got some detailed art, which he knew it already because he studied the work regardless. But I was like, I've got some stuff that I don't want to get lost. And I know some
Okay.
modern colorists can bury line work.
That's exactly what it was that I was looking
Yeah.
for. So it is in a way he enhances the artwork. You worded it correctly. I didn't. My brain's not working right
No,
now.
you're fine, yeah.
Sorry about that. You have a question real quick before we get back to about you working
Yes.
with Kyle. Jaro says, any chance you'll get Art T Bear to ink one of your pieces? Would love to see that combo.
Oh, I'd absolutely love to do that. I think when Art has a little bit more time when he's done with black and white, and he has like a break before he gets on to his next thing, I would love to do something with Art. I've always been a fan of his work as well, and I would love to have him ink over a piece of mine. So I don't know when it's going to happen, but I would say it's definitely going to happen at some point. I've mentioned it to him, and he said he'd love to. And basically, it's just everybody's busy and has things to do, but maybe one day that would be another dream of mine. I could cross that off my bucket list if I got a piece inked of Art T Bear.
And then back to Kyle. Sorry. It's I
No,
want
yeah,
to catch
great question,
questions. I want to catch the questions while I see them because that is something I used to fail at, and then I'd have to go all the way back up. So
No, being a host is fun. Good times.
that's why I have Spencer running everything in the
Yeah, there
back.
we go.
Which Spencer, can you drop the link for Ginge? See, Ginge, I saw your comment. Spencer, wherever you are, there we go. Thank you. Back the book, Ginge.
Yeah, so Kyle's great at that because Kyle's a storyteller. So Kyle's a very, very good artist as well as a colorist. He's a very talented dude. But what I like about him is he looks at the story, he sees what he wants to do, and he has an idea of how he wants to tell the story through his colors. Not just let's color the piece and let's move on. As I've worked with some guys in the past that they do really good jobs, they color it, they move on, but he's just like, I see where we want to go with the story, and I want to add my part in the story. So working with him is crazy easy because he'll just come up with a palette of how
Look
he
at
sees
that.
things. Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous.
Look at that. That is just so beautiful. The color scheme, it's absolutely gorgeous. Those blues, those greens, those teals, the tones and with the purples in there that I see.
Yeah,
It just combined with the dark and light aspects, it just sets such an incredible tone for this book.
One thing that I got really excited when Kyle, before we even colored anything, we were just sitting down talking about the book, and he was telling me what he saw color-wise with the book, and I was telling him what I saw color-wise with the book. And a lot of the stuff we were on the same idea, and he just had these ideas of this palette he wanted to use. And I told him, I was like, look, one thing I love about comic books, I know like nowadays, there's a running joke with like the bisexual lighting, there's bisexual colors and stuff like that when you get into the culture war. But when it comes into comic books, there are colors in comic books that work really well. I like purples, I like pinks and things like that because they make things pop if you use it correctly.
If they're used correctly, absolutely.
Yeah. And Kyle's the same way. So we were talking about things we wanted the book to be dark, but we wanted it to not be like heavy dark in the colors to where you couldn't really read it or see what's going on. Cause I was like, we got a lot of line work. We got a lot of detail. I don't want
it would
any
be
of that
muted and all of that would get lost. Yes. And it wouldn't be as exciting. I just don't think it would be exciting or give the same feeling. And this color scheme makes the red pop a little more.
Yeah. And that was the whole idea too. Is like we have signature things on the costume that we want to pop in a page, and so a lot of stuff is built with those ideas in mind. How can we get certain things to pop this in this page or in the panel, by certain background lighting that we can do or certain color schemes for other things. The bad guys in this, which are just throwaway bad guys for this scene, had a completely different color originally designed into their suits, but we decided after going over different color palettes for the pages, we wanted to switch up the color of the characters because it worked better with the scene. And since they're not huge characters going forward, we didn't have to worry about it. We weren't beholden to a certain color scheme with them. So we could go through different things and be like, what works best with this environment that we're creating with this opening scene? And we ended up going with this kind of blue color that just worked really well with the teal and the greens and
Love
the
it.
the warm lighting and stuff that he would do with other stuff. It just
It's
yeah,
little bits of
he's brilliant,
purple.
brilliant.
I mean, what a lot of people don't realize is that blues, so they're all I'm a hairdresser, so there's a color wheel that we use.
There you
There are
go.
undertones of every
Yep.
color. Um, black most blacks have a blue base in it. Red can have a blue base in it. It can have a purple base in it. Red can also have an orange base in it. There's different, he just works color so well.
Yeah.
And nothing gets lost in this either. I love that the details are just
Yeah, he did a great job of keeping the details and
look at the cross
the line
hatching
art.
here.
Yeah, exactly. That was one of the things I sat
Look
down
at that.
because the previous colorist I had in this book was Brian Valenza, great colorist, works for Marvel, does a lot of good stuff. But he's a modern colorist, just like Kyle
Mhm.
is. But that was one of the complaints I had is like I thought too much stuff got buried when you go because the colorists will take a chance to go into shadow, and they're
Spencer,
like,
can you
"Well,
zoom in on this page real quick? Sorry, Joe.
no, you're fine." A colorist would be like, I can go into shadow and I'm going to darken it with all my color effects. So you're going to take cross hatching and sometimes completely bury that cross hatching where you don't see it anymore because the colorist decided to take it over and make it go light from dark how he's coloring. And I told him I was like, I don't want to lose the line art on this because that's the point of the art. What I drew, what these guys inked. And Kyle was all about that. He's like, yeah, well, completely. He understood that, and he approached coloring to make sure that the line work would still stand out and still be able to do what he did with his colors. And he's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. Love that dude.
I have to comment on this too. Um, your panel shapes, the choice of panel shapes in this book, they add such a unique perspective to this story.
Thank
I don't feel many people know how to make proper use
you.
of panel shapes and what you can do with panels. I mean, this is just incredible. This is
Thank you.
basically like intergalactic thoughts. This is I can't even explain this. Your mind on MDMA, your mind on shrooms or something, how someone's
Yeah.
brain this is just amazing. And
Thank you.
these lines, it just your whole team and you made very smart decisions with this project. You went full force into it.
Yeah.
Um I
You know,
I can't say
Again, lucky
enough.
with the guys I get to work with because they bring the professional feel I want to the book. Um, well, yeah, with the storytelling, I've always been a fan of paneling a page to the point where it's interesting. I'm not a big fan of boring storytelling. Just I want to do stuff unique that is going to excite the reader's eyes while
And it
you're reading the
does.
story. Right. And because when I grew up reading comic books, that's the artists that I followed, that's what they did. Like so I'm just following in the footsteps of the guys that came before me. And the stuff that I found exciting about comic books is just what I'm trying to do with my storytelling. And with with the paneling specifically, I look at a page as the entire page is a work of art.
Mhm.
Like, so how can I construct the entire page to be a work of art and not just the art that's in the panels to tell the story? So when you can just zoom out and look at a page sitting there, I want the entire page to be cool looking, before you actually get into it, read the words and actually go through the panels. Um, sometimes it's not always like that. If there's a certain scene that calls for a little bit more structured storytelling within the framing of the panels, I'll do that. It depends on how I feel that the page should look. But when I have the opportunity to experiment, whether it's a fight scene or a nightmare scene like what we're looking at here, I really just want to, go all out and have some fun. Like there are rules when it comes to storytelling, but there are things you can break. We've seen great artists throughout the history of comic books break the supposed rules when it comes to storytelling, the do's and don'ts, and it works. As long as the reader can get through the page, as long as it's entertaining and cool, that's kind of my philosophy on how I put pages together.
There's an energy to it, but then there's also a lucid factor. It's like a lucid dreaming kind of thing you have going on. I can't explain it. There's a lot of energy, but then there's this lucidness to it.
Well, and especially with that last page, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a nightmare, so that's exactly what I was trying to go for, you know,
Yeah.
like it's designed to put you in the environment, you know, that we are putting the reader in. You know, if you're
You feel
invested
it.
into the book, exactly, we're trying to get you, yep, trying to put you right in there along with our character.
That's why personally, like I have you ever read the Dark Phoenix saga?
Oh yeah.
All right, so there was a scene there when she basically was like she basically took Mastermind and she blew him through, like made him think of his whole life,
Mm,
basically
yeah, yeah.
made him feel like he was a god mode. That's what this kind of reminds me of. I mean, in a way, I can't explain it.
That's
The
the fun.
sequence is
That's the fun with
just
storytelling, you know, that it allows you to be able to experiment, much like a director directed a movie, you know. You can approach different scenes in different ways. Like this first page, the first page is a little bit more structured, even though I've got some odd shaped panels to help kind of,
no,
you
I
know,
love it. I
send you
love it.
through
It works.
the page. Yeah, you know, so there's many different ways you can go. But when I get a chance to really kind of dynamically lay out panels, that's my favorite. I love just being able to just doing something maybe a little unorthodox, I guess. But if it works, you know, like when it comes together, it's just like, yeah, like that works good.
Making a city look interesting too, and just the silhouettes of these buildings bleeding into the lines of the panels. I mean, and into the shadow here in this corner where my mouse is. I don't know if it's even
Yeah.
coming up.
Yep.
I
It's
mean,
coming
it
up.
just works gorgeously. I mean, the panels I think enhance the story. I love seeing this viewpoint here, these different viewpoints and perspectives in them. I mean,
Thank
this
you.
is just amazing.
Well, that's what
I
I love about storytelling. That's why I don't drawing covers and drawing pinups are fun, but I want to be a sequential artist because
mm,
drawing the story to me is way more fun than just drawing a cover or a pinup. Like those are fun to jam out, you know, but like it's the investment, the creativity go into how do you construct a page, how you construct a scene over multiple pages, you know, and then how do you construct the entire book. Uh, I take a lot of influence from great storytellers like Greg Capullo or Brett Booth. Kenneth Rocafort is amazing at his panel layouts.
oh yeah.
So you know, like I just kind of take that into each page, and I just allow my brain to kind of just arrange it in a way that's going to be fun and interesting for the reader.
All right, let's get into the story real quick before I go through all of the covers, and we'll go through your perks. Your story. So, besides how you wrote this out here on your Indiegogo campaign
Mhm.
page, how would you describe it in short form or longer
Short
form?
form.
Yeah, or whatever way you want to describe it that you don't have it written here. Pretty much.
Uh, well, so yeah, so you got the breakdown there of what the story is. You know, overall, it's just we're following a story of a man who's trapped, who finds himself imprisoned in the supernatural suit of armor, inhabited by the ancient spirit of death, who is trying to possess his soul. If that's not bad enough, he's got the immortal races of humans are after him to try to capture this newfound power that he's been endowed with. And on top of that, there is an ancient evil that's just been resurrected on the earth that threatens all of mankind, that the Reaper Destroyer may just be humanity's last hope for. It's very much a reluctant hero story. You know, a character that doesn't want to be where he's at, that despises what has become of him. We dive into the mystery of a lot of things. You know, we follow the character, much like the reader is not going to know a lot of what's going on until it gets unfolded. Um, it's a buddy cop kind of book in a way because between
Hmm.
Matt and the spirit, it's very much the concept of two main characters that really dislike each other but are thrown together and have to find a way to work with one another to accomplish a goal. I always like that aspect. I'm a big fan of like Lethal Weapon and things of that growing up. So again, like this book is it's amalgamation of all the stuff that I loved from pop culture when I was a kid. So there if you read this book and you catch a certain influence, chances are I put it in there for a reason. And it could be from anything from, like I said, Lethal Weapon to the Highlander to the Guyver to Moon Knight to Darkness to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There's so much that I just kind of dumped myself into this book of everything I love, because I figure you get one chance probably to make something, and why not go all out? So it's in a very expansive world with a lot of fun twists and turns and characters. It's got elements of action, sci-fi, a little bit of horror, sexy characters. My character Vanessa is a very, very sexy, evil character. I can't wait to
Oh, I
dive
love
into
it.
her more. Yeah. When you guys get to see her in the book, she's fun. She is the main villain of the book. I don't know why I picked a woman. It just thought it seemed good to have like that. I needed a more sexy character in the book, because most of my characters to start out with were males. And I didn't want to have a love interest. I'm not a big fan of telling the love story between two characters. It's boring to me to read. I know it can add interesting dynamics within a story, but I wanted to avoid it. Like it wasn't something I wanted to draw. I didn't want to write about it. So I Vanessa wasn't in the original book. That's another thing that changed from the original book to
Okay.
now. She was a character that I completely added in, because one day I was just thinking of a big bad that I could have, and instead of having a male character that was bad, I remember back in the 90s, I loved like the Top Cow villains. There were a lot of female Top Cow villains back in the 90s.
Oh yeah,
You saw like
definitely.
Within the Darkness, Cyberforce, like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it just made sense. It made sense to have a character that would be fun to write, that'd be fun to draw, and just really be able to lean on that very powerful, very evil, very sexy kind of character. So I think she's going to be a fan favorite. She's already a favorite of mine in the book. So, anyway, yeah, I'm rambling here as far as
No.
I lost myself
This
talking
is
about.
what we're here for. This is when I'm doing an interview, I want to hear everything. And I'm sure
Yeah,
everyone else does too. So
and that's my thing. Like I'll get into thinking about the
all right.
story and talking about it, and I just want to talk about it. So I'll just be like, oh
No,
yeah,
I'm
this
here for
character.
it. I'm here for it. As long as you want to be on, as long as Spencer can be on, we will
Yeah,
talk about whatever it
good to
is that
go.
you want to talk about. And if you haven't backed everyone, back. I don't think this is a book that you're going to be unsatisfied with backing. I think you're going to be content backing this. There's a lot of passion behind this. There's a lot of thought behind this. And the quality, I know, like the artwork. I mean, your ash can was pretty good quality. And I know this
Like,
is going to be by far probably way better quality, I'm assuming, because this is your main book.
yeah,
Um,
the finish. Yeah, the finish. I
your
mean, once you get the
your big
colors and
your big
everything in there,
projects
yeah,
is always
yeah,
Chaos has a really cool design too, and she
yeah.
is you know I'm not sure, because I don't want to read from the ash can about what I read about her. I want people to, if they haven't gotten the ash can, or
Okay.
just to read this book. I mean, I could, if it's up to you. I
Yeah,
have a
I
thing
don't
about
think
no spoilers, or unless the book
anything
is out.
anything I put in the ash can is not really a spoiler. So what I've said
So
about the ash can is whoever got the ash can would just have a leg up on the backers, because
I'm
the
ahead
ash
of the
can
game.
has information in it that you aren't going to find out until you read the book, but nothing is spoiler. It's still just all commentary on what's going to be in the book. So in the ash can, it covered some of the main characters that you're going to see that we're going to develop over the time. Chaos is another character that was an original character that was in the book, and I wanted to bring her back because I really liked her story,
Yeah, it's
and I
cool.
liked her
I like
character.
the story that you have going on for her. And I just like her design and the costuming, and I like the hair on her, and I like the weaponry that you had done on her. I like her look a
Yeah,
lot.
thank you.
So
She's another one,
actually,
like another favorite. I mean, I got
let
so
me
many
pull
favorite
this up.
characters in this book.
Let
It's
me go
great.
back on screen and have Spencer. Spencer, I'm just gonna have you like let me start my camera real quick. I have my cats fighting in here, so
Ooh, there you go.
all right. Does this look?
Yeah, that's looking good.
I'm like, does
It's
that look
coming
all
through.
right? Nah. Like, yeah. This is just so cool. I love this. Like, look how beautiful that face is. Thank you,
Thank you.
Stat. This is just gorgeous. I'm like, my camera is opposite. That's the one thing I hate about
StreamYards.
um oh my God, everything's backwards. I'm so confused. I'm like, what
Yeah.
side is what? Like,
I've gotten used to it by now, but yeah, it is backwards when you see everything. Which I was on a Zoom interview a couple days ago, and Zoom it shows
it's
you exactly what
straightforward,
you see,
right?
and that threw me off because everything was reversed from what I normally see. Like I was just like, oh man, it's just too trippy. Uh, yeah, Chaos is a very fun character. Again, a lot of my characters are derivatives of the stuff that I loved, whether it was comic books or movies, because you grow up, there's especially in the 90s. And this is why I say about the 90s being my favorite decade for creativity in entertainment is there were so many good characters and good stories that were created in the 90s, late 80s, especially when it came to action.
Oh, yeah.
There were so many action characters that you could kind of draw from. Chaos is kind of a combination of like the old assassin ninja character from like
Yeah.
the 80s or 90s
Yeah.
mixed
That's
with
what I
like a
got from it.
yeah, mixed with like the bride from Kill Bill, aspect. And there's a lot of things that I took that they made that character of, but she's great. She got a very tragic backstory that made the character who she is. This isn't a spoiler because I've been talking about this for forever. If anybody's watched the streams when I've talked about certain characters in my book, but she is a character that's going to very much start out as a villain, but she's
Yep.
designed to have to be made into a more of a baby face, as we go, because she's just uh, a very troubled, very tragic character. That's uh,
Dual natured.
yeah, when we meet her in the story, she's very much on a mission for revenge for something that happened to her when she was a kid. And she's just kind of caught up in this world and this story when we find her. But I really would love to dive into her backstory more, either in her own title or a backup story or a supplemental book or something, down the line. Because
Oh,
she deserves that. She
I could
definitely
definitely see you doing your own title for her. I could
yeah,
definitely see you
which
doing
I would
some
love to.
kind of I definitely think it would be successful because she has a very intriguing backstory. And she's someone kind like with all of your characters, I would say not everything is what it appears to be. That's what I
Right.
took from what I've read so far. Um, but we'll go on because I don't want to lead you to
Let me
to
tell you
talk about.
everything, guys. I'll
Well,
tell you
I
everything.
don't want you to, I have a tendency sometimes of getting things out of people that they're not supposed to be talking about.
And I'm very
So
easy with that too, because you can just give me a little bit of daylight and I'll just run right through the door. I'll just like, yes, like you want to know the spoiler? Here we go.
when
Right into it.
when the book comes out and people have read it, you'll definitely have to come back on to talk more about just
Definitely,
this
yeah.
whole just everything that you're creating within should I say this universe here of
Definitely a universe. That's one thing that people might not know. But Superior Press is my company. I'm very much
okay.
wanting to make a shared universe. So Reaper Destroyer is
Oh,
the flagship title of this universe. But going
okay.
down the line in the next few years, there's other IPs. Chaos is one of them that I would
Mm,
like to put out. Other characters I've created over the years that all fit within this universe that I want to put out and create a shared universe. I want to hire other writers, other artists to put these books out as we go. And because that's my whole goal is to not I want to work on this book. So I will work on this book. So I will work on the art, and this has an ongoing story that I'm going to develop as long as I can do it. But there are other characters I definitely want to get out into the ether for the comic book readers,
mm-hmm.
and just again, I grew up in the 90s. I was a big fan of Image Comics, and I always had a dream of having a studio within Image Comics, and within that studio to have my shared universe, just like all the founders of Image did. And so this is the closest I've come to doing it, and I'm definitely going to do it. So you're going to see a lot more titles out of Superior Press as we go, as long as people like them. As long as people like them, I'll continue putting out more and more of this style, I guess you could say, era, vibe, or whatever of characters.
I love it. I let my father read the Ash Can because my dad, you know, he's not too happy with modern comics. Although I did get two
Understand that.
Wolverine comics recently for him. He's a big Wolverine fan, and he was a
Yeah.
big like when Image first came out. I mean, My father has thousands of this house is crazy. I could probably open up my own comic shop at this
Nice.
rate. It's bad. It's like a hoarders, but for comics. There's nowhere to put any comics anymore.
That's
We
awesome.
need a storage unit. It's not so awesome. At the same time, it's awesome, but it's not so awesome when you have to categorize them and bag and board them.
Ooh, yeah.
And
That's a lot of work.
we did that. Me and my father, we went through all of his comics one summer. We bagged and board everything. He looked at this and read it, and he's like, "That's it. There's not more." I'm like, "Well, I'm gonna bag this book when it comes out." But my dad said your art style reminds him of like Wildcats and Wetworks and just a lot
Awesome.
of
Thank you.
he said like Top Cow stuff, like and Image stuff. That's what my father said. I mean, my father's he's 60 in his 60s.
Nice.
So, I mean, he's been a fan of comics for a really long time. So, we've just he's been enthralled with the indie campaigns I've been backing because he just hasn't been happy with the stories. And I mean, he's been on here on Death Curse and has given a few rants and
that's awesome to hear because that's what we're trying to do with the indie scene is, get those readers that are not being fulfilled by the big two or the mainstream anymore and give them what they want and what they're longing for. With this specifically, like, yeah, it's got a 90s feel because I mean that's just my style lends a little bit more towards the 90s, I guess, because of the guys I grew up idolizing. But it's just Reaper Destroyer is the vibe and feel of those books, with hopefully more of a modern story, but just modernized. To me,
oh, definitely.
This genre of comic books, this is how it's supposed to look. Like this style art with these kind of characters. And ever since I've been showing a lot of the art, especially since the campaign's been out, I've been meeting a lot of people that have either DM'd me or just commented on various social media about like, wow, like this reminds me of the 90s, or this reminds me of Image. Like I forgot how much I missed this style of stuff. And like that's what we want to try to do is like bring something to those people that have missed that style of book because it doesn't really exist very much anymore.
You took all your influences and you took that feeling and you kind of created your own style. You can tell the influences within it, I will say, but this is very much your own. You definitely have modernized the 90s Image kind of Top Cow genre of art, I would say. I definitely think you have succeeded in that. So if you have any doubt in your mind that you definitely have succeeded and I don't want to say mastered because I hate saying that you mastered something because if you mastered something, that means that your development stops there, but you're succeeding at what it is that you're trying to convey to your audience. And that's important.
There's a part of me too, like with this kind of style. So when Image happened, you had the big name artists break away from Marvel, do their own thing. It really took a lot of the power and a lot of the attention away from the writer and put it on the artist creator for a long period of time. When the writers were able to wrestle back control of the industry, they absolutely buried this kind of style of art and storytelling, and they demonized it as a bad thing. So you had a period of time where people looked at the 90s as this kind of like black sheep decade, which I never understood because it was one of the most entertaining, profitable decades in comic book history. It was probably the last decade. Yeah, that was a fun decade, right?
And everything was new. I mean, with Rob Liefeld, I would say he was young when he got,
Oh yeah, he was a late teen when he first broke in, early 20s when Image started.
He just, his mind and his creativity, he brought something completely new that had to make other artists that are already working like get on their toes, like, oh, I got to create something unique. I mean, he brought that definitely to the industry. I have a lot of respect for Rob Liefeld. He was my first interview ever at a con.
Nice.
Yes.
That's awesome.
I had to cover for the owner of a magazine I was interning with, and I got sent to interview him, and he wasn't taking any interviews basically. And I talked to his person and spoke with him, convinced him to let me interview him. And he's like, all right, you got 3 questions. I'm like, gave him a list of questions. He picked them. And he's like, you got 3 minutes. And it was probably the longest 3 minutes of my life. It was right before Deadpool came out too at Boston Comic
Oh,
Con.
nice.
So, I am just forever appreciative to that man because I was just some girl that my owner of the magazine left. I was there, my team was gone, and
Right.
Rob Liefeld's a huge name.
Yeah. Oh,
And he
yeah.
was like, "Yeah, I like something about this magazine that you have here, and I like how you approached me and your intensity and passion." All right. So I have a lot of respect for him.
Yeah.
But back to
Oh.
you. Back to you.
Well,
um
it's just the the style of art or whatever, like, I still get it today, like, where people will be like, I'll get negative comments every once in a while about the style of art or what it reminds me of, or like blah blah blah. But I get more people that are really excited to see this kind of stuff, because they haven't seen stuff like this in a while. It reminds them of what was fun about comic books back in the day, and that's exactly what the project's meant to do. Is give you that nostalgia feel, but give you something brand new and exciting, and give you a substitute for anything that you're lacking right now in the mainstream. So I'm
and
very glad that it's hidden like that with a lot of people.
I mean, my father is probably one of the most pickiest comic book readers, so for him to look at it
Oh,
and
that's
be
awesome.
into it, and like, okay, when's more of this coming out?
Nice.
That's and he loves the art. Like I said, he
Tell him
loved
I
the art.
said thank you. I appreciate that.
He'll come and watch the stream at some point, and he'll probably join on Death Curse at some point. We're gonna probably have him come in and do a review episode of
Hmm,
some of the books that he's read.
that'd be cool. That'd be cool.
His perspective is hilarious because he has a lot of knowledge on this industry as far as like the storylines and the character creations.
Right.
It's pretty interesting. But if you can get an older reader, like someone that's 60, that
Yeah.
says a lot. The older readers are the pickiest generation of readers. I've worked in
Right.
comic book shops for over 10 years,
Right.
and I'm
Right.
telling you, anyone between the ages of 45 and your 70 crowd, 45 and 70, and they spend a lot of money on books. They
Right.
are
Right. Yeah.
the pickiest readers. They will be the first to say that, oh, this strayed from what it was. This sucks. Up, drop
Nice.
this off my sub list. I'm
Yeah.
not doing this anymore. This art is shit. I'm telling you, it's not the younger generation. It's not the 25 to, I would say, 40 crowd. It's
Yeah.
45 and up crowd that has the most complaints. The younger crowd, they have a very different taste. And I would say nowadays for anyone under 25, a lot more manga sells than actual books and shops.
Yeah. I'm not
Um,
surprised. Yeah. I mean, manga is definitely very popular right now, and more power to them. But it's to me, it's a shame that American comics get outsold in the country that popularized this
yeah.
comic style.
Hmm.
So and that a lot of it has to do with the industry. The way that they've
Mm,
handled characters, the way they do stories now, just the different politics and stuff that they put into books, and they've strayed away from the storytelling and character building that we
yes.
all loved and grew up with these characters. Back in the day, nobody really gave it, or nobody really
No.
cared. I don't know if I can swear in this channel or not, but
No, you
no.
this is Death Curse.
Okay.
Yeah, you do whatever
I,
you want. I
I,
mean,
I was
just
gonna
don't
say
get
no.
naked. That's pretty much the rules.
Nobody gave a shit about politics back in the day. Yeah, politics were in comic books, but they served a story. They served a story in a way that made the story interesting, and it wasn't something that they told you how to feel or how to think in
Yeah,
the book. They
exactly.
presented sides of it, whatever. And
Or it
you
was like
you
an
got to.
underlying tone within it. It wasn't just so blatantly in your face. And there
Yeah,
was more than one kind of aspect of politics within it.
exactly. Yeah.
I would say. So,
And beyond that, the just the fun storytelling, the fun, worlds that were built and characters that were created, disappeared. Like comics now
mhm.
are boring. They're just really boring. There's nothing that excites me that gets put out. No characters that have been created in the last, I don't know, 15 years or so, or
I
anybody that really.
one book. There's
Yeah.
one book. There is a book called We Live. All right. I looked at it. I was like, all right, this looks like it's like a kid's book. It's by Aftershock.
Oh, okay. Aftershock.
Okay. So I read this book when it came out. And when it first came out, I didn't get it because I judged it by the cover. I was like, oh, this looks like, it's not for me. It looks kind of youngish. I don't know what they're trying to do with the story. Like, I flipped it open and it was kind of like a television prompt in the beginning. I didn't really care to read it. I
Okay.
was like, oh, okay. So I judged it basically off of one page.
Mm.
Ended up like when I think issue 3 came out, I said, all right, okay, let me give this a chance. Because someone was like, Kayla, have you read this? You would like this. It's sci-fi. Sci-fi. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, maybe I'll give it a chance. It was an older reader too. And
Yeah.
I trust this guy because he was one of my favorite customers. He was like big into X-Men and just like stuff that I grew up reading that was more from his generation. And he's like, it's like sci-fi, I'm surprised, but I really like it. Ended up reading it, fell in love with it. It's just, I don't want to ruin it for you if you ever get a chance to read it, but read it, give it
Yeah, I
a
don't think I've
shot.
heard of it before.
It's I don't feel enough people have heard about it, and I don't feel like it gets the credit that it deserves, but it's done by the Miranda brothers. It just
Oh, okay.
it's unique because it is a superhero story, but it doesn't come off like a superhero story at all. You have kids getting bracelets basically from some alien superior beings.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, obviously there's something that goes on. The whole world has changed. I don't want to. It's crazy. Animals mutated. Like it's interesting. That's the only book that I can say that has been in a shop and they just released their second arc, and it's
Yeah.
just as good. I was
Well,
like, I was surprised.
that goes to the point too. But Aftershock is an indie publisher,
Yes.
so you see more of it with the indies. Whether it's an indie publisher that's in the stores or indie publisher that's crowdfunded books, you see more creativity in those books than you do anything coming out of the mainstream right now, because there are certain agendas or things that they need to push and put in those books that don't jive with the actual comic book reader anymore. Most comic book readers want to pick up something that they can get lost in. It's a fantasy world that you want to get lost in for the 15 minutes or however long it takes you to read the book. You don't want to get reminded by real world things or whatever. Like that's they have missed the they're not on the pulse of the reader anymore, and that's
No.
which is fine. To me, I've been divorced to the mainstream industry for a while now. There's a great backlog of books and stuff that will always be there that I can always go back and find good stories and great art. Right now, the excitement is in the indie scene. It's in Comicsgate, it's
I
in
agree.
indie books. Like that's where it's at right now, because you see the passion of the creators, and the quality of the books are improving.
And it's
Like
genuine. The stories are genuine, the characters are
yeah.
genuine, and you form a connection through creators that have passion, through creators that care about their readers. You need to care about your readers as a creator.
Yeah,
You do. Obviously, you
absolutely,
want to make your own story. I'm not
yeah.
saying just tailor everything for a reader, because there's going to be someone that does not like something. And if that's the
Right.
case, you don't change the whole thing for one person.
Yep.
They just don't buy your books anymore, whatever. It's
You try to create a
you have your
story.
own audience.
Exactly, and you try to create a story that can be appealing to everybody as much as possible. With that being said, you're not gonna reach everybody because everyone has their own tastes or whatever, but you create a story that can be relatable to any reader, can pick it up and relate to the story because it's got a key thing in it. It's got revenge, or it's got a mystery, or it's got a tragedy, it's got a heroism, whatever. There's something that
Whatever you're
a
drawn
reader,
to. Yeah.
right, that can be relate to that story, and that's what the book is supposed to be. And then when inside that, have interesting characters that you can grow with, and you can see them go through some kind of arc. Characters now are stale in comic books. The story's stale. It's like retreaded stuff.
Repetitive.
Yeah, and you get very fun, new, exciting stuff in the indie books and in Comicsgate, and so that's where I've been mostly over the last year or so. So I don't even pay attention to the mainstream industry much anymore. It's just something comes out, it's hyped up, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't care. Like I really don't. I follow some of my favorite artists that are still drawing in the mainstream. because I'm a fan of those guys and I always
Yep,
collect their
I
work.
agree. I
But other
agree.
than that, there's no character right now that I strive to get out to the comic book store every month because I have to read their story because they're not doing a good job of keeping me as a reader. And I'd much rather read passionate indie books by passionate indie creators than the stuff that they're putting out in the mainstream.
Yep, I agree with you 100%. And that's why indies are winning right now. I look at the numbers, okay? Because I'm sorry, I just threw a cat out the room. Let me go back on camera here. But I get a chance to like look at the numbers. And even though I'm only at one of the shops seasonally and one of the shops more for cons now because I'm crazy with my work and schooling
Right.
at this point in my life and we're trying to get some Death Curse stuff done. Like Spencer just said, Death Curse, Spencer is basically the head of Death Curse. We're doing our own publishing thing too, pretty much.
Nice.
And we did City of Rot and we finally got our books in. So I'm going to be going back and forth to Connecticut to get things together with Spencer. And we have a convention we're working. Plastic City Comic Con, Keith Gleason's Comic Con from Alterna.
Oh,
So I'll
okay.
be there running the booth on Saturday,
Nice.
July 16th. But I get to see numbers is what I'm trying to say. And when you have the store owner saying, and I've seen it, cutting down titles. And what a lot of people don't realize is why so much of a certain thing is because they need to get a shop exclusive to make all their
Yeah.
money back because that shop exclusive will sell more or a
Right.
certain variant will sell more. The main cover of I would say this is like a 50, maybe depends on the title, but a lot of the times the main covers aren't selling as well. So in order to get that variant cover, you have to order so many of this main comic, and
Yeah.
all these books where they end up going in the back issue bin and they end up
Yep.
going in the dollar bin and they sit in a basement for a while or in storage or they go to cons and they're marked down for nothing. I mean, and that's just the reality. But the indie numbers look a lot better. I don't see a book that came out in the shop where that just did like what have you done with Reba Destroyer so far? Sorry. So far,
Uh,
you've done 34, almost 35,000. Okay.
yeah.
At this point, which really I would like to see this book get to 50 grand. I
Yeah.
think
That'd be awesome.
this campaign deserves 50 G's. I've seen other campaigns that have done 50 G's that I don't think are as well thought out as this. And I can only be completely honest. I don't sugarcoat anything. This is a campaign that deserves 50 G's in my
I
opinion.
appreciate it. Thank you.
I say that wholeheartedly and very genuinely. But, I don't see titles like that doing those numbers for
Right.
the amount of books, between multiple stores. I'm saying multiple stores income, not just talking about one shop,
Mm,
multiple shops across Massachusetts. And I happen to be affiliated with one of the largest shops in Massachusetts.
right. It's
So
sad. It is. It's
it's heartbreaking.
comic book. I love local comic book stores. Like obviously, I grew up with a couple in the town that I went to. One that stuck around my entire and still there. Fortunately, but comic book stores are great. It sucks that the predatory sales, I guess you could call it, that they have to go through to get the stuff that they do. Because you're right. I mean, some titles that you think are selling really, really good are selling good because they have to buy so many uh
They're not.
issues.
They're
Right. And
not
so
because
it's the numbers look good,
it
but you go to the comic book store and it's just they're sitting on the shelves. Like you don't have to race out to get a comic book anymore because it's going to be there in 3 months. Issue 1 is going to be there in 3 months still, where, and it sucks because they just, you're right. You will find these books in the back bin in no time at all. And
after
it's
3
just,
months, yeah, because there's a 3-month wall, things go on.
yep.
There's usually like basically usually how most shops do it that I've seen. You have the new this week, you have last week's books, and then you have the 3-month wall, then you have your back issue bins, your dollar bins, your discount sections, and then you have stuff that goes down in the basement that you're hoping is going to be of value at some point as a shop owner, and stuff you might get sent out to get graded. That's a key. That's
Yep.
just how it works. I will say I wish more shop owners would take advantage of campaigns that do offer product for shops and get away from some, and it's not to knock shop owners. I understand why shop owners do what they do and affordability and everything. But
Yeah.
whoever decides to open up, someone that has the money decides to open up a shop that has all of these campaigns in it, like basically that backs creators books like yours and puts them on a shelf. I mean, you're gonna win. You are gonna
Yeah.
win. So
I forgot to do it when I launched this campaign, but I think when we go into the second 30 days, I'm going to add a retailer tier to the campaign. And if there are any retailers out there that would like to get a bulk order of books. Um, yeah, there's tons of books out there, tons of indie books right now that if the wide reader, the wide customer base of readers that go to those stores saw them on the shelves would sell very quickly just based on the visual aspect of what they look like. And then you're gonna get new unique stories that are gonna probably remind you of what comic books are supposed to be like,
yes.
So yeah, the right now crowdfunding is great because you're directly to the consumer, and that's
Hmm.
very cool. No middleman.
Don't have to
But
deal with Diamond messing up your books.
yeah, exactly, exactly. But it does suck for the local comic book stores because they're closing down all the time. It's a dying kind of business. I got a lot of respect for the people that are still being able to do it. A lot of comic book stores I've heard they don't take in a lot of new issues anymore because they don't sell. So they invest heavily into back issues because that's where their money is. Which is that should tell you everything you need to know about the
Yeah,
industry
back
right
issues
there.
outsell any of the modern comics by far.
Yeah.
I can say that without even blinking an eye. I can say
Yeah,
that,
exactly.
and that's a no-brainer. Muttman says, well, he says he thinks the shops that win the long game are the ones that recognize crowdfunded and CG as a category to invest in and recommend to their customers. You will find shop owners that do recommend books, but they
Yeah.
they don't know how to go about investing in them properly. And
The
older shop owners don't really know what they're doing on the internet, and depending on who they have working in their shop, the younger person is so a younger person may be running how they do their internet stuff. You have to
right,
think, who is this younger person and what do they think about the particular crowdfunding campaign? Because
exactly.
there is a bias that does go on. People don't want to talk
Yep.
about it, but it exists.
Yeah.
The indie market is ripe for investors with a good eye for customers, for what customers want. And that's why, exactly what I'm saying, Muttman, whoever decides to open up their own shop and invest in all of these indie creators and just do a shop for just indies, they're going to have a lot of success. And Spencer is saying
That'd be a
definitely
good
do a
idea.
retailer perk. I think you should do a retailer perk. What do you have to lose?
Yeah,
You know?
I'm going to. There's gonna be one on the second 30 days. I'm gonna put one up there. I actually meant to do it. I ran out of time when I was getting the campaign ready to launch. It was one that I just kind of forgot to do, but I'm gonna get one up there for sure. And honestly, what I'd love to do in the future when I get so Reaper Story is an ongoing story,
Mhm.
but it's a 4-issue story arc for the first story.
Okay.
When I get through the first 4 issues, I would love to try to get this into stores and put it out on a monthly basis. So at least it could have, because those issues would be done. So I could release 4 issues, one a month, and boom, that mini series. It could be a mini series. You could book it, you could advertise it like a mini series because it'd be the beginning of the story arc that would get you into the book. You could have it ordered and boom, it comes out once a month for 4 months, like a standard book would.
Okay.
So that would be interesting. I don't know the logistics behind all that, but it'd be the same thing as trying to put it together as a trade and get that picked up by a store, because now it's like a graphic novel. It's all this kind of stuff. But I would love at some point to see these indie books be in the stores, coming out on a schedule because you're far enough ahead of production that
Yes.
those would be able to actually hit and bring in new readers. And then those readers could be like, I love this book. I collected these 4 issues. Hey, the newest book is crowdfunding right
Funded.
now.
I'm gonna
Now
go and
I'm going to
support the
come.
crowd campaign.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do
Exactly.
you have a website for Superior Press?
I don't yet.
That's
Probably in the
something you
future,
should do.
I'll get something set up. Yeah.
That way you can put your updates on it. I mean, I don't need to tell you. You know how it works, but if you have like a website up for Superior Press, if you were doing something for a retailer, you could add that in there so people know where to find you other than social media.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm something I'm going to work on for sure.
And then they could look at the website and then go and see like, oh, you're crowdfunding this. What then at this point, or whatever the case. I mean, but let's get back to this. We got a little off subject. I can talk forever when I'm
Oh,
really
no.
passionate about a
It's a good
project.
subject. Yeah, for sure.
So just let me know if when you need to leave, because
Probably in a little bit. I didn't realize it was
all right.
almost 11
I
o'clock. So
didn't
probably
either.
in a little bit.
I didn't
Yeah.
either. But all right, let's go over your covers real quick. And
Okay.
yeah, and then we'll go over your perks and then
Okay.
we'll let you go. You'll be free.
All right. So what we're looking at here right now, this is the wraparound cover. This is the main cover. It's my cover for the book. It will be colored. Kyle Ritter is coloring it. We're going to work on coloring it right now. Hopefully, we'll have it up for the second 30 days. It got delayed because Bat was inking the cover, and he had some kind of up and down health stuff for a couple weeks he was going through that slowed him down. It's no big deal. We put it out later, but this will be in full color, just like you saw the pages, and it's going to look absolutely gorgeous. I can guarantee you this cover is going to look beautiful when
That's what
Kyle
I
gets done with it.
backed. I backed a line art one, but I'm gonna go back in and back another color one. I'm probably gonna go back in and back your top tier. I just had to back first day, and then I'm probably gonna get through your top tier that you have there, just because I want to gift one of the books to someone. I want to give
There
it
you
to the
go.
color version and so on and so forth.
The line art, I always like line arts, like just being
It's
an
my
artist.
favorite.
So what I'm doing with line art, since you brought it up, it's so it's not just going to be a black and white version like you saw with the ash can.
Yep.
It's actually going to be a little bit more of a treasury edition.
Oof.
Same size,
I
it's
made
going to be
the
the
right
same size
choice.
comic, but it's going to be the direct scans of the page with script. So you get to see like the blue outline of the comic book paper. You'll be able to see the kind of notes that I put in there for the inker or whatever I might have been thinking at the time for when I sent it, because the guys ink right over my original pencils. Yeah.
I'm so excited now. I'm even more excited because I was kind of hoping there would be something like that, but now you've confirmed it for me, which really I should have just DM'd you and asked, but I'm glad that was my.
Well, it was something I was thinking about the other day. I was like, well, why don't I just do it like that? Because on my channel, like I'll look at a lot of books like that I absolutely love. I'm like, well, why don't I was going to do a black and white version anyway, but I was like, I already put out an ash can that had like the files were all kicked up, so it was ready to print, and it was all fixed up. And I was like, well, I love looking at the original scans or whatever of a page when it's put together. So I was like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to put that out. And I think it will look cool. I think it will be unique to some of the black and white line art versions of books that you see out today.
I agree. I think it is unique, and I would love to see more crowdfunded comics have line art stuff. It's my favorite. I love to see the art in its rawest form.
Yeah, me too.
It's so pleasing to me, and but I have to get a color version too because I like to see the differences between.
Well, yeah,
I'm one of those people.
You want the book the way it's supposed to look, but then you get like the different versions of the book where you can just get it stripped down. So you get the black and white version. I also at some point, I don't know if I'm gonna do it on this campaign, maybe I'll do it on the second campaign, but I want to put out a version of the book that's just pencils. Pencils and the script, it's like an even more stripped down version of the book, for collectors like me, like not everybody's going to dig that kind of stuff, but the people that do, I want to make sure that it's available for them. So
I dig it. And then we have Shelby's variant cover here.
Yes.
Shelby's freaking amazing.
This is a gorgeous looking cover.
That's insane.
Yeah. I own the original art to this too. I had to buy it from him. The story behind this is he sent this to me as just a fan art.
Really?
One day, yeah. He DM'd me. He was like, "Hey, dude." He was like, "I drew this," and I was like, "Holy shit, dude! Like that is awesome." And he was like, "Yeah, use it for whatever you want." So I put it in the ash can as a pinup, a black and white pinup.
Yep, it was in the back there.
Yeah, but I liked this so much that I was like, dude, you need to finish this out. And so I had him color it, and I was like, I'm going to use this for something. So I ended up using it for the metal trading card that the first 100 backers got. but people love the image so much that I decided to make a variant cover, and I'm glad I did because
Smart
it
choice.
just, yeah, honestly, it just looks so good. Like he's such an incredible artist, and just, yeah, it's. I'm excited to have him on my cover for the first issue for the
Yeah.
variant.
I'm not even a big fan of variants, but this is just insane. You, you have your black and white edition. There's your interior pages. All right, so let's go over your perks. I think we went through everything, but your perks. You still have original art. You got 4 of them claimed. You have so you have
Yes.
5 more left.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm only doing a limited
6 more left.
limited amount of the original art because I want to keep a lot for myself. And I told people, I was like, I will put it up if you absolutely want it. I was like, but one, it's gonna be pricey because the names that you're getting on there are legendary names.
Mhm.
And two, if nobody buys my art, I'll be completely fine because I'll keep it for my collection. So fortunately, but unfortunately, 4 people have backed the original art tier, which is great. I'm not complaining because of the money. But again, yeah, there's 6 left, but if nobody backs them, I will be happy with that too. But please back them. Yeah, so
Yeah.
the tiers, if you go up to the
I'll go up to the
top,
very top here. You have
yeah,
you
so this is,
have your featured, the triple threat, which this is a
yes.
great deal.
Yep, and that's just all 3 covers that we're talking about: the main cover, the variant or the variant cover by Shelby Robertson, and then the black and white book. So all 3 of those books are included in that tier. It's a popular tier. It's a featured tier. That, a lot of people have been getting that. And then below that, we just have the 2, my cover, then Shelby's cover, like we were talking about. And once I get the new images, I will update everything on the campaign once the colored versions come in. Then there's the line art edition that we were talking about, just kind of broken down. Then we have a 2-pack, which I think is the virgin covers.
Okay.
So if anybody out there likes the covers without the dressing on there, which I enjoy collecting those, you can get those in a 2-pack. So it's just the art on the books without the logo or the imprint or anything. And then the Reaper tier is all 4 books. So the 2 regular books and the 2 virgin prints that you can get combined. And then you have the
Amazing.
Destroyer tier, which gets
Ooh.
everything. This is covers A and B, both the virgin covers, the line art edition, and it's got an exclusive full foil version of the ash can. So it's got this here. I've been showing it off before. It's an absolutely gorgeous looking book.
Spencer, full screen, please.
This is all
Oh,
foil of the
wow.
ash can.
That is all right. I already
Yeah.
was gonna go back in and back this. So,
Yeah,
I mean, my birthday's next week, so
there you go.
it's my
Yeah, it's a
gift to
beautiful looking
myself.
book. So, and it's exclusive. It's only, the only ones that are going to be printed are the ones that are going to be printed for that tier when it's fulfilled. So it'd be a very, very collectible book. And that's exclusive to that tier. It won't be
Your
able you
mystery
won't be able to
books
find it
here.
anywhere else. Oh yeah, no, there's going to be 2 mystery books that we're releasing coming up here probably, probably more or less when we get into the second 30 days of the campaign. And so the Destroyer tiers, you back it once, you don't have to back it again. Um, Anything that comes out, anything that we put out book wise will automatically go into this tier. It's a $200 value right now. It's going to come in an exclusive box.
Ooh.
I don't have it advertised yet, but I will. I've been telling people like this is going to be shipped in a actual box, and there will be boxes added to the campaign later on in the campaign for just separate purchase. But I want everybody to know that this will come in a box, and this most likely is going to be an above a $200 value when it's all said and done for the things that I plan on releasing as we go through the campaign. So yeah,
I
the 2
agree.
mystery books we'll find out what they are when the time comes, and I'm hoping to do some fun things and exciting things for the campaign that people will enjoy. Um, some people might get pissed off. I don't know. You can't please everybody, but I want to
No,
make sure that
exactly.
it's a fun thing. You back this once, you don't have to back it again, and you should get a whole bunch of fun extra stuff, including all the stretch goals. All the cards, all the prints will come in this tier. So it's a very good tier, very well thought out, got a lot of stuff in it. I encourage a lot of people to back this, and it's just once and done. You don't have to worry about anything again after that.
You're gonna get your value if you back this. So
Yeah.
this is a tier to back, I think. Um
this was going to be the feature tier, and we decided I decided to change it just because of the
Mhm.
price value it's a little steep. I mean, I completely understand that, but I do think it's the best value on the entire campaign to get.
Well, I agree. I'm intrigued by the mystery books, to be honest. I'm like, I need to know what it is. What's the
Yeah,
mystery book?
yeah. It'll be some fun stuff. It'll be some fun stuff.
All right. Is
Uh,
there anything you want to add about this? Because I don't want to keep you here.
oh
We've
no,
been going for like 2 hours. So
yeah,
anything you
no,
want to add?
that's basically it. Just thank you everybody that's back so far and everybody that might back in the future. I really appreciate it. This is a dream of mine that I've been working on for a long time. It's finally coming true. And it's off to just like a great success for the start of it, more than I could have ever hoped for. So just the biggest thanks to the backers. I will continue saying it until well, I'll continue saying it forever because it's just very humbling and exciting to have people want to invest in something like that. So yeah, thank you, and thank you for having me on, being able to talk about comics in general, talk about the book. This was a great time.
And just the last question, all right, that I have for you is what advice would you give to anybody that wants to create their own book?
Just do it. Don't find reasons to not do it, and don't delay on doing it. One thing I found with me is I kept delaying doing this book because um I wasn't confident in it. I didn't have this set, I didn't have that set. And if it wasn't for Shaun kicking me in the ass, I might have kept delaying getting onto the book, But eventually, once I got into it, things started to flow, and it was the weight was almost off the shoulders. You're just working on it. So, just do it would be the first thing I would say, and the second thing would be, get the best quality you can out there. Swallow that pride. Hire the people on the book that are going to give you the best quality with you. If you're a writer, hire the best artists you can find. And so on and so forth. Just put out something that's going to wow people, because there's a lot of people out there that want to back something new. They want to read something new. Sometimes I think they could get turned off with the quality of indie books. And that's the biggest thing that people complain about us as indie creators is the quality of books, because you're competing with companies with lots of money. You can make an investment in yourself. You can do it, and you can put out stuff that's just as high quality as they put out, and you're going to get your return. I really believe that, to do that. So don't hold back. Don't be scared. Um, Go for it. Is all I have to say. Just go for it. Go for that unattainable goal and put out something that's just wows people. Like that's my whole goal of things. Like I want people to see this and just be like, wow. So do that. Do that.
That is great advice. Thank you so much for coming on this evening. And thank you to everyone that came by and watched for a bit, or anybody that's watching now, because I know we have a lot of people that come and catch up. So I'm very appreciative just for everything. And it you were the best choice for my interview back.
Well, I
So
appreciate you having me
thank
on.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And best of luck with your campaign for the
I
next you
thank
got
you.
you got 45 days because you're extending for
Yep.
30.
Yep.
All right. Back Reaper Destroyer, everyone.